Alexandria, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Brand News, and this is the Financial Services News You Might Have Missed podcast. This is where I find some news gems that haven't gotten their full chance to sparkle, and dust them off a little bit. I'm joined by my trusted co-host, and more importantly, my trusted financial advisor, Brandon Galisi of Galisi Financial. Brandon, we had last week off. How was your time?
It was good. We took a family trip to Cabo, which is pretty easy to get to from Southern California. We had absolutely perfect weather. We were talking ahead of time. I got to golf for the first time on one of these all-inclusive trips at the resort. And they even had 4 stops where you could grab some drinks and grab some food. So I got some fresh steak and chicken tacos at one of those and golfed with my dad and his wife that day. And overall had an absolute blast, well rested, and have had a good week getting back. So what have you been up to? What did you do with the time off last week? Well, you didn't have as much time off, but.
Yes, I wasn't on vacation, but I was thinking of you. We did go bowling at some point last week, and I did very well my first game. I actually got a turkey for the first time, I think, in my life, which was, if anybody knows me, I'm one of those people who's lucky to get to 100 at the end of the game. So the fact that just kept happening, I was like, ooh, like what happened? But then by the second game, apparently my blood sugar must have been low because I was thinking of you and how you have golf snacks. And I was like, damn it, apparently I need bowling snacks.
It makes a difference. I mean, anytime you're doing, I think, activities or even if you're having to think through things, I'm telling you, I have to have my snacks on the golf course. So even when I'm not getting them for free or included with the green fees, I'm absolutely packing my little snacks. But that's awesome. A turkey, though. Did they have any cool visual? I know bowling alleys are doing some interesting things when you get strikes now. So what was the visual once you got 3 of them in a row?
So that would be giving this one too much credit. It's really local. It's the only independent one around here. So it's very much, it looks like it looked probably when I was a child. So we're
nostalgia.
Like graphics period, let alone. Like,
did at least a turkey pop up somewhere in some form or fashion?
I didn't see it. I'm not going to lie to you. But
I feel like you got gypped then, because that's impressive. 3 strikes in a row. I'm not great at bowling, but yeah. I'm always stoked if I get it 1 strike. So 3 in a row. Watch out, bowling circuit.
Well, and when I get my snacks.
Yeah, snacks plus bowling, you're going to be great.
Definitely. So the first piece of news literally feels like this is 2 weeks ago. It's about AtoZ communications client VastAdvisor. So yes, it is a new week. Yes, we are talking about the same company, but just because they're so fabulous and they have more news. They just announced their new chief product officer, Jeremi Karnell. If his last name sounds familiar or looks familiar, it's because he's the twin brother of founder Ian Karnell. They ran Trulytics, and Jeremi was previously at Envestnet before coming over to VastAdvisor. So just wanted to shout out, congratulations, Jeremi. Glad that the twins are together. And also it's a great company, just seeing their services and what they're capable of doing, getting all of your marketing organized and being able to test what's working and not working in real time and then deploy things differently, I think is a game changer, literally.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the firm-specific data to optimize targeting, messaging, and conversion is one of the things I picked up out of the article. And like you said, that type of data is incredibly important. And then on more of the fun fact side, I saw Dana Point, California was also at the top of the article, and that is a neighboring city to me. So I'm like, oh, Dana Point, that is 2 to 3 minutes away. And oftentimes Amanda and I get dinner, and it's a beautiful, beautiful city. So not sure if Jeremi necessarily lives there or who lives there, but Dana Point, awesome city, and that stood out to me too.
I'm just saying, not that you want to necessarily couple going out to dinner and like a demo of VastAdvisor, but I'm arguing that you kind of had no excuse not to experience it now. Just saying.
That's fair. That's fair.
Our second piece of news, I feel like I'm dating myself here, especially with you, Brandon, but it brought me back to my Nick at Night days, seeing the firm Lassie. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it to you later because I'm the elder millennial. So they raised $35 million. And what caught my attention with this is that the headline was saying that they are going to build AI for small businesses to run themselves. So I was a little like, that's interesting. How are we, like, could we run ourselves? Is that how this would work? Another interesting point that I found in the press release is that they operate in more than 700 practices across almost all of the United States. And they currently provide business owners with more than 250,000 hours of labor each year. So to me, that's quite voluminous, although I guess even when you think about it with us, if you chip away, I work with like this partner and they take off a little more time and it all adds itself up. But I don't know. Do you feel like we could have AI like take over our businesses?
I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think we've talked about even agentic AI in the last few months, and that 250,000 hours of labor per year is the stat that jumped out to me as well, because you're right, it is voluminous, great word there that you used. But it's massive, right? I mean, that's an insane amount. And especially because it specifically was talking about eliminating repetitive administrative work so owners can focus on customers and growth rather than paperwork and back office tasks. So that was the direct quote from the article. And I think that makes sense because that's the stuff that we're a broken record about on the podcast. That's what AI is going to be great at. Yes, we need to make sure that there's still some human oversight to make sure that these admin tasks and back office tasks are done correctly. We don't want obviously a bunch of errors, or then a human has to come in and clean up a lot of mistakes, and then now your time savings is gone. But for a lot of these tasks that we're talking about, these are the ones that AI should be doing, and even in the article specifically saying so that the human can focus on customers, growth, marketing, more important tasks that only the two of us as business owners should be focusing on. So I thought it was really cool, and I'd love to get some time back as well.
Well, and I would love to see you get some time back. So I would be curious, and I can answer this as well, but what would you do with that time that you get back?
Like it said in the article, focus more on clients, focus more on growing. So unfortunately, they kind of already...
Because I'm here.
That's not what I'm saying, that just because you're here, I promise. But no, that's what I do. Or, I mean, it could get to a point depending on what capacity is. I mean, we're talking increased capacity. I mean, there's already people in the industry that are saying that there could potentially be a solo advisory firm with maybe a few support staff that has $1 billion under management. So, I mean, people are already thinking, and even if they're off to some degree, we're still talking about substantial efficiencies compared to at least the older model. I mean, I know I'm more efficient. I'm pretty sure you're more efficient, even compared to ourselves 2 years ago, 5 years ago, because of the tools and the tasks that we have. And typically we just then fill it with other things. But what about you? What would you've got some extra time. What would you fill it with?
Well, so selfishly, I think that I would spend more time exercising, but it's interesting. So I've been thinking more about my business lately and trying to work on the business more than in the business, which I feel like, especially for us as largely being solopreneurs, it's one of those interesting, like, well, you can either actually do the work or you can think about how am I doing the work and is this the best way and whatnot. So it's been interesting stepping back a little bit and seeing like, yeah, you know what, this could stand to be a little bit better, or I ought to be doing this. So even just having that moment to reflect on like, okay, you know what, I can pull myself out of the work for a minute and then obviously get back to it. But it's been nice to have that.
Yeah. What's been the best part about kind of taking the step back? Any good insights, even high level, that you want to share?
Well, so a bunch of insights, but one of them, so my website, I will be totally honest, I put it together because I, at the time, had a client who looked me up and was like, where's your website? And then I just felt like, oh, you don't have a website. This is bad. So I Squarespaced it because didn't have a heck of a lot of money. Felt like I needed to get it done. Did I really want to put a lot of effort into it? No, but wound up doing that. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, that was okay as like a Band-Aid for then. It's not okay now. So it's nice seeing the evolution and then seeing the kind of things that like were passable before, but are not anymore.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And kudos to you for being intentional and taking that time and still giving yourself grace of it was fine for the time. I mean, even in hindsight, you're not going to say, oh, I wish I would have spent thousands and thousands of dollars. Like you got the job done, but you're at a different place in your business. And I think if we don't take, and I'm talking to myself on this too, we don't take the intentional time to look back and even see where we've come from, like you mentioned, sometimes we can just get in this almost rut when we look back 2 years ago and it's like, oh, I am doing a lot of things differently, or, oh, I could probably update this particular process because I'm at a new place in the business. So yeah, that's awesome.
No, thank you. But I don't know about you. I'm one of those people who's very guilty of just like, I'm heads down and I'm doing the thing. And if I'm not doing the thing, I'm with the kids. So also arguably doing the thing. Like, it's hard to step back and look up and be like, yeah, but you know what? Like, you got to observe and look at what's going on in addition to doing all this stuff.
Yeah, I think you're just calling out pretty much all of the entrepreneurs because I know at least I relate very much to that, where it's even you've got the goal, you hit the goal, and then it's almost minimal time to celebrate. And then it's boom, right? Exactly. Right on to the next. So quick reminder for all of us listening to this, take some time, be grateful, look back on where you've come from, and then also where you're headed to.
Yeah. And I'm very excited for where you've grown to. So good job.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Of course. So our third piece of news is from Wells Fargo, which had a new quiz revealing some gaps in homebuyer knowledge. So what I thought was interesting here is that 7 in 10 participants said they feel knowledgeable about buying a home, but the quiz itself that they took, 75% of the respondents got 4 or less questions correct. I thought that that was quite jarring, but also as you think about it.
Right. And just with a lot of financial topics, they can be confusing. I think the thing that really jumped out, well, in addition to there's clearly a mismatch, people think that they know more about buying a house than they actually do. I guess that part didn't surprise me as much. But what kind of did, although this directly correlates, I think, with that, only about 1/3 of those people actually turned to any professional. And that wasn't just a financial advisor. That could be a real estate agent. That could be a mortgage lender. That could be the bank. That could be any professional. And only 1/3. And a lot of, unfortunately, the younger generation, so we can throw ourselves under the bus here as millennials. I think we still count as younger generation. But anyways, the younger generations seem to focus more on social media. And look, I love social media. I do it. I enjoy it. But that's not the only place that people should be getting information, especially if it's not a trusted person. So now you've got this huge mismatch of people don't really know what they're doing from a financial perspective, buying a house in this case, but they think that they do. And then they could go and potentially make big mistakes versus, I know a lot of people like to almost hate on real estate agents, but really good realtors are absolutely worth it, at least in my humble opinion from what I've seen, where they can help you avoid making mistakes. And again, the caveat is it's a good one. There are a lot of bad ones out there, sure, or mediocre, but working with professionals in general, a lot of times, going to be helpful, at least with the right ones.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because actually the reason that I worked with the financial advisor that I had before you was literally we were preparing to buy a house. Like, what is it that we ought to be doing? What can we afford? So a lot of those questions were answered and were addressed. But I guess it's also interesting. I mean, how else do you figure it out if you don't ask an expert? Is everybody, and I'm asking anybody else, do you just like Google around and figure like, well, 20% is the down payment, and I wouldn't have known a darn thing.
Right. And again, because it's not common sense stuff. So you're right. I mean, if you're not going to a professional, which you did, then the only other way to do it is what you said. Or now add AI into the mix. That wasn't around when I bought my first house or you bought yours either. But now, yeah, which might give you decent information, but it's just not going to have the context. Because if you ask, how much house can I afford, for example, that's probably one of the most important questions. There are so many caveats to that, right? I mean, how much do you put down? How much do you have to put down? What are the interest rates? And also how much you can afford on what a calculator tells you might be the absolute most. Should you be spending 40% of your income on debts? I would say probably not, for at least for most people. But if it just says, oh, I guess that's normal, and then 40% of your gross income now is going to your house, you're going to move in and be like, oh, I don't have any other money. It's all going into this house right now. So without having that context, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things is like getting into the house and then you see like, oh my gosh, there's like an empty living room and like, I don't have any money to buy a couch right this minute, but I feel like somehow that didn't cross my mind in the process.
And I feel like that, again, it's not common sense because typically before that, you're used to renting in some capacity. And even people understand closing costs, but they might not know how much. But I think to your point, the furniture, that's the one of the largest overlook because it's like, oh, great, I got a house. But you might not want your rental apartment of furniture back into your new home. It might not fit or for whatever reason. And now you start, I mean, anyone who's bought a home understands this, but things get pricey. Also furniture, if you don't get it from Facebook Marketplace, it's kind of expensive. Found that out several years ago when we bought.
Goodness. Or I feel like IKEA, but yeah, even still.
Fair. Yeah, you can do IKEA, but then sometimes it's like you buy a new house, like, oh, then I'm going to splurge for the nicer couch or whatever. And now all of a sudden you're like, where is this coming from?
So I'd be curious to see what it's going to take for Americans to get that knowledge, whether it's then understanding that we don't have it. We didn't get it when we went to school and whatnot from our families, wherever. So we need to ask a professional, or if somebody's just going to say like, look, as part of your high school, you're going to figure out things like how much house you can afford in addition to whatever else you're going to be studying.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And then even just the caveat with whenever it's being taught to high schoolers, because sometimes it's tough to retain information when it's like, oh, I'm 16 or I'm 18. I'm not going to buy a house for however long. It's easier to forget some of that, but at least know enough to be dangerous. And hey, when you do X, Y, and Z tasks, when you go buy a car, when you go buy a house, when you do these different things, it probably makes sense to talk to a trusted professional. Mm. Even just having that and then teeing it up with, hey, ChatGPT can be fine, but probably also confirm with, again, the word trusted. And I know that's easier said than done, but add that to the list too.
Yeah, makes sense. Our final piece of news is from Symphony. So they launched the first savings app that rewards people with points and miles. So I thought that this was interesting. So thinking about savings, I feel like very little encourages you to actually save. I feel like our culture is so centered on like splurge on this and spend on that. So that was lovely. But also the fact that they're rewarding you with opportunities, points and miles. So miles, especially to travel, points, I guess, arguably you could use however, but encouraging that travel, I think was a lovely way to, you did your savings and you did a wonderful thing, and now you get rewarded on the other end of things. But I would love to get your thoughts on that one.
Right. I mean, I liked how, at least in the article, it talked about how they're trying to simplify things. I think the thing that stood out to me was Symphony's designed to make your savings account feel easy and seamlessly rewarding, something traditional financial products have rarely achieved. I think that's true. There's a lot of really clunky products out there. I mean, I think in the last several years, we're starting to see more modernized products. But if you make something too complex, or, I mean, unfortunately, these days, if you don't have a good user experience with your app or website, people are going to go somewhere else because there's just so many great platforms out there. So I think a focus on UX, user experience, is really helpful in helping people accomplish this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a good reminder again. Got to get that website fabulous. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Right. Which I do think there's at least a little bit of a difference in a service-based business. It's like, yes, the website's going to be important so people can find you, but a little different since they're going to be mostly interacting with you versus if your sole interaction is with, say, your bank or whatever other financial provider. If you either have a 1-800 number or you have an app and the app is not very good, it's even more important. And I think in that case, not that a good website's not good for us too.
Yeah, good point. But yes, so thank you for all this. Glad that we got back to doing things. Although I'm not going to lie, even though I didn't go on vacation, it was nice to like have some extra time to, maybe that was where I got my extra time from. I'm trying to think like, how did I have extra time? It was probably because we didn't podcast. So thank you for the time to think about my business.
Yeah, I'll start going on vacation more often.
No, I like doing this. Don't do that. But every now and then you're allowed to go on vacation.
Perfect. Deal.
Thanks, Brandon.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie.